Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really getting into a case that, well, it dominated the hip hop conversation back in the mid 2010s. We're talking about the tragic murder of the rapper Chinx, Lionel Pickens Jr.
Yeah.
And if you followed it even a little bit, you know it just got buried under this avalanche of rumor, some of it just completely wild.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of our mission today, really. We need to be surgical here, separate the fiction, the crazy stuff, from the actual facts.
Right.
We're going to lay out the real investigation timeline, look at the motive, which was surprising, and very local, and just completely take apart those huge conspiracy theories that honestly muddied the waters for years.
Yeah, it's like the story itself was hidden for almost a decade. And not just because the investigation was tough at the start. It was obscured by this massive conspiracy idea pointing fingers at one of the biggest names in the industry. It was a huge distraction. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, let's start with Chinx himself. Lionel Pickens Jr. He was 31, from Queens, New York. A really prominent member of French Montana's Coke Boys records.
Yeah.
Known for the Cocaine Riot mixtapes. He was getting serious recognition.
Yeah, he wasn't just some local guy. He was really on the verge. You remember that track, Off the Rick, with French? It was huge. Millions of views. It showed he had that, real commercial potential. He was definitely trending up in 2015.
And that momentum just stopped violently.
Yeah.
It happened early morning, May 17th, 2015, back in Queens. He's driving his Porsche, stopped at a red light. Another car pulls up. Someone starts firing a 9mm, just unloading into the car. Classic horrible drive-by. He died right there, pretty much.
Now, almost immediately, I mean, before the scene was even cold, the rumors started flying. It got kind of ridiculous, actually. What was that main conspiracy theory everyone latched onto?
Okay, the big one, the one you still see sometimes online, was that French Montana, his mentor, his label head, had somehow set him up.
Set him up? Why?
Well, the theories range from, money issues, disagreements, or if you went down the real internet rabbit holes, it was this bizarre Illuminati sacrifice thing.
Wow. It sounds crazy saying it now, but that idea had legs. I even remember Chinx's own mother, understandably grieving. She publicly asked French Montana and Puff Daddy for answers.
She did. But importantly, she also pushed back against the really weird stuff. She actually said, and this is a quote, "Some people always preaching that Illuminati bullshit, that shit is fake."
Okay, so even she saw how absurd that angle was.
Yeah, her words kind of cut through it. And French Montana, for his part, always denied everything. He seemed genuinely shocked, heartbroken, condemned the violence. He called the whole Illuminati obsession absurd and overblown. His public reactions just didn't line up with guilt.
So fast forward 3 years of the stuff swirling around. What did the actual police investigation, the official channels, conclude about that whole French Montana Illuminati narrative?
Let's be absolutely clear for everyone listening. Law enforcement, the investigators, the courts, over the entire decade this played out, found zero, absolutely zero credible evidence. No forensics, no testimony, nothing to support that conspiracy.
Nothing.
Nothing. It was just unfounded gossip, internet speculation trying to force a sensational story where, sadly, a much more common, grim one existed.
That's a really critical point. Okay, but before all the rumors took over, let's go back to the scene itself. Chinx wasn't the only person hit in that car, was he?
No, he wasn't. Another guy, Antar Al-Ziadi, also known as Yemen Cheese, part of the Coke Boys crew, was in the passenger seat. He got shot too, back in torso. Critical condition.
Wow.
Yeah, doctors apparently gave him only a 15% chance of survival.
Yeah.
But incredibly, he pulled through. He recovered.
Okay, so you have a survivor, a witness. This feels like where the case should break open, but it actually hit a massive problem, didn't it, with Yemen Cheese?
Huge problem, yeah. Initially, he posted this really dramatic thing on Instagram from the hospital bed saying, "Rip to my brother, you saved me."
Yeah.
Implying Chinx shielded him. He seemed like the key.
Right, the guy who saw it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then things got murky fast. He deleted the "you saved me" part of the post pretty quickly. And then Chinx's widow, Janelle Caceres, she spoke out, saying Yemen's story wasn't consistent. Eventually, his official stance became that he saw nothing, absolutely nothing. Said it all happened too fast, couldn't ID the shooters, the car, anything.
That's an investigator's worst nightmare. You have your one eyewitness, and the story is either changing or just gone. Why does that happen so often in these kinds of cases? It seems counterintuitive.
Well, it's this really complex mix, right? You've got the genuine trauma of almost dying, which definitely can mess with memory. That's real.
Sure.
But then you layer on the street culture, the infamous street code, the absolute rule against snitching. If Yemen Cheese did see something and name names, he wouldn't just be risking, his reputation.
He'd be risking his life.
His life, his family's lives, potentially.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous. So for a lot of people in that situation, saying, I saw nothing, is the only path they feel they can take to stay safe.
So the police are kind of stuck. They have to respect that reality, whether he truly couldn't remember or just wouldn't say.
Exactly right. And because they didn't have that definitive witness ID, this really high-profile murder case just stalled. It went cold for more than 2 years.
A cold case, with all the celebrity rumors swirling while the actual killer is out there? That must have put incredible pressure on the NYPD, specifically the Queens homicide detectives. So how did they finally break it? When did that happen? And how if they didn't have the witness?
The breakthrough finally came in December 2017. 2 guys were arrested, Quincy Homere and Jamar Hill. And here's the really telling detail, the thing that shows how they cracked it.
Yeah.
Both Homere and Hill were already locked up. They were incarcerated on totally unrelated charges when the police charged them with murdering Chinx.
Wait, so the police didn't get a sudden confession? No witness suddenly decided to talk after all? They solved it using stuff they already had or could get access to?
Precisely. They built the case the hard way, using, sophisticated forensics, combing through historical surveillance footage maybe, but critically, they used institutional records and informant networks. The lack of witness cooperation basically forced them to dig vertically deep into suspects' pasts instead of just horizontally at the crime scene.
Okay, tell me more about these institutional records, because you said the motive went back 6 years. Those records must have been vital. What kind of records are we talking about?
We're talking about really leveraging the system itself. The police likely pulled detailed records from Rikers Island from back in 2009. Things like cell block assignments, visitor logs, maybe records of fights or disciplinary actions, internal reports.
Wow.
They used that paper trail, stuff generated inside the jail, to definitively link Chinx and the main shooter, Quincy Homere, and to establish that their relationship, way back then, was hostile, violently hostile.
That's actually kind of brilliant. Using the prison's own bureaucracy to build a case that the street code couldn't silence.
It's often the only way these incredibly tough, non-cooperative cases get solved. And when the police finally announced the real motive, it had nothing to do with French Montana or the Illuminati or record label money. The truth was grounded in a personal beef from 2009.
Okay, let's really focus on this motive now, because this is where the facts just completely demolished all that fiction. What was the deal? What happened back in 2009?
So, the core dispute started while Chinx and Homere were locked up together at Rikers Island. The police described it as this long, simmering, unresolved conflict. Something happened back then that never got settled.
Okay.
And it apparently just festered for years after they both got out. But there was another layer, too. Police indicated Homere had this intense professional envy. He resented Chinx's success, seeing him blow up in the music industry while he presumably wasn't doing as well.
Man, that's a potent mix. You have an old jailhouse grudge that never went away, combined with seeing your old adversary suddenly driving Porsches on TV, living the life.
It's lethal. And the police were clear. They said Chinx was hunted. Homere and Hill didn't just randomly encounter him. They allegedly targeted him specifically because of that old beef combined with the jealousy. The fact that a fight in jail 6 years earlier ultimately led to a planned murder, it really highlights a major systemic breakdown, doesn't it?
It really does. It puts a terrifyingly high price on just resentment that wasn't dealt with. So the arrests happened in 2017. It took until 2024 for the legal side to wrap up. Almost 9 years. How did it finally conclude?
Yeah, the whole process finally ended earlier this year, 2024. Quincy Homere, the alleged shooter, he ended up pleading guilty, but not to murder. He pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter in July.
Okay, manslaughter, not murder. Now, I bet a lot of people listening might wonder, if the police had all this evidence, these Rikers records showing the grudge, the premeditation Homere hunted him, right? Why would the prosecution accept a manslaughter plea? Why not go for the murder conviction?
That's a really good, really important question. And it boils down to something prosecutors deal with all the time. It's called prosecutorial pragmatism. Basically being realistic.
Okay.
After nearly a decade, evidence gets old. Memories fade, even if you could get someone on the stand. And critically, remember Yemen Cheese, the key witness. His testimony was either non-existent or completely unreliable for court.
Ah, right. So even if the cops proved the motive, the why, from Rikers, they still might struggle to prove who pulled the trigger beyond a reasonable doubt in court without that direct eyewitness.
Exactly. Juries often want that eyewitness, or absolutely overwhelming forensics directly linking the defendant to the gun, the car, the act itself, taking the manslaughter plea deal guaranteed a conviction, a long prison sentence. It eliminated the risk, however small, of Homere maybe beating the rap at trial because of those evidentiary gaps or witness problems. It's a calculated win for the state in a very old, very difficult case.
Okay, that makes sense. Securing the conviction was the priority.
Right. And in August 2024, Homere got his sentence. 23 years in prison. Reports say he did offer condolences at the sentencing hearing.
23 years. Okay, let's try and tie this all together now. Looking back at the whole saga, what's the big takeaway? The so what here?
Well, what's really striking is this kind of split reality. On one side, you see a clear institutional failure. The very root of this murder, that conflict between Homere and Chinx, it started and grew inside a correctional facility, Rikers.
Right, the system didn't resolve it.
It didn't resolve it, maybe didn't even recognize its potential to escalate, and then it just spilled out onto the street 6 years later with deadly consequences. The prison basically incubated the problem.
A problem that was contained physically, but never actually dealt with. It just waited.
Exactly. But then on the other side, you have a significant investigative success story. The NYPD facing huge obstacles. The street code, the witness silence, the public pressure from the conspiracies, they still solved it.
How?
By thinking differently, by using those institutional records, by deep forensic work, by cultivating informants maybe. They found a way around the lack of direct witness cooperation. They built a solid prosecutable case anyway.
So the police work was innovative and ultimately successful, but the underlying system that bred the conflict in the first place failed completely.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah. So let's recap that key contrast again. The real story of Chinx's murder wasn't some shadowy Illuminati plot. It wasn't about his label boss. It was tragically much more mundane in a way, but also complex. A mix of, local street beef, intense personal and professional jealousy, and this 6-year-old grudge that started behind bars and was never resolved.
And thinking about that origin, it really leaves us with a critical question, something for you, the listener, to really consider. If we know these conflicts start in places like Rikers and can explode years later, what needs to change? What kind of structural shifts do we need in how prisons handle conflict? Or in reentry programs when people get out? How do we stop a fight from 2009 becoming a murder in 2015? How do we bridge those gaps in the system, to prevent this kind of deferred violence?
That's a heavy question, a really sobering thought about the real-world cost, the human cost of conflict that festers inside institutions.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive today.